The first sign is never sound. Sound belongs to the living, to lungs drawing breath and hearts pulsing blood. The tombs of the Necrons lie in silence deeper than death, a silence that presses against the ears until even one's own heartbeat feels like blasphemy. To step into such a place is to feel not only that you have entered the past, but that the present itself has abandoned you. The dust is too thick, the angles of the walls too perfect, the inscriptions cut in patterns that seem to reject mortal eyes. One might think them ruins, relics of a civilization extinguished before the first flames of Terra's hearths, but they are not ruins. They are doors, and they are closed only because the sleepers within have not yet chosen to rise. Explorators of the Adeptus Mechanicus have wandered into such catacombs, driven by the lure of uncorrupted alloys and unfathomable energies that still hum faintly beneath the stone. They descend with their Skitarii escorts, vox grills whispering binary prayers to the Omnissiah, augury sensors sweeping the shadows. Some record their discoveries on data slates, sketching the elegant cruelty of pylons and the impossible geometry of chamber vaults. Yet always there comes a moment when ritual falters, when even the Mechanicus feels unease. It is not because they sense life, it is because they sense attention. The architecture itself seems to lean closer, as though unseen optics narrow on their trembling forms. And then they understand these halls are not abandoned, they are merely patient. Imagine the terror of a lone guardsman, conscripted from some ash-wind world, sent into the depths to chase echoes of a missing patrol. His boots crunch on dust that has not been disturbed in a million years, and every step feels like intrusion. His lasgun is little comfort, for how can one prepare to face the unknown? He shines his lamp pack on walls adorned with metallic reliefs, the forms of warriors frozen mid-stride, their faces blank masks of judgment. He does not yet know these are not statues. He does not yet know that one day the eyes within those forms will blaze with green fire. For now, he only knows fear, the kind that gnaws into marrow and whispers that he is already trespassing in a grave not his own. The Imperium teaches that ruins are the bones of history, safe to scavenge if one prays enough litanies. But there are ruins older than the Imperium's faith, older than humanity's arrogance, ruins that breathe only when the stars themselves align. The Necron tombs are such places. Their corridors are labyrinths, turning back upon themselves, shaping patterns so precise they appear random until mapped from above, where they form glyphs that no human scholar dares translate. The air is dry, metallic, tasting faintly of copper and ozone, as though the storm that will come is already etched into the walls. And everywhere lies stillness, deeper than any cavern of natural stone, a stillness that waits, coiled like a predator, too ancient to rush its strike. What stories linger in the dust? The Mechanicus speculate, though their words are always couched in denial. They whisper that the alloy of these walls is unbreakable, that no plasma torch nor melta charge can scar them. They murmur that energies flicker deep in the substrata, like hearts beating once every 1,000 years. Some even claim to have glimpsed, in the corner of failing optics, a figure shifting slightly, only to find the statue unmoved when light returns. Such tales are dismissed as data corruption, sensor error, madness born of pressure and confinement. Yet there is one truth no denials can bury. Expeditions vanish. Entire regiments sent to secure promising vaults, fall silent, their last Vox transmissions nothing but static hiss, sometimes punctuated by what sounds like faint, grinding metal. The stone remembers. That is the feeling pressing against the mind of every intruder. These places are not merely waiting, they are aware. The walls echo not with sound, but with meaning, alien memory, etched into living metal that never forgets. Every chamber is a story of triumph and annihilation, every corridor a hymn to a civilization that ruled when humanity still cowered in caves. To walk among them is to feel judged, measured against a standard older and harsher than any imperial creed. And somewhere in that suffocating stillness, beneath the cold metal gaze of slumbering warriors, one realizes that awakening is not an if, it is a when. The awakening begins not with violence, but with a whisper no ear can hear. Deep within the core of a tomb world, machines stir that have not moved in 10 million years. They do not groan or screech like the crude engines of men. They hum, low and steady, as if the world itself exhales after an eternity of restraint. A faint green glow flickers in the seams of the walls, crawling like veins of light through obsidian stone, pulsing once, then again, in rhythm with some vast and ancient design. The air shifts, the silence, once suffocating, is now charged with anticipation, like the breath before thunder splits the sky. Servitors wired into augury rigs sometimes capture these changes, registering anomalies in the lower bands of radiation, faint tremors in tectonic plates, or unexplained fluctuations in the local noosphere. They record them dutifully, sending streams of binharic cant back to orbiting Mechanicus vessels. But the data is never enough to reveal the scale of what is truly stirring below. To the Imperium, it is an echo, a ripple, a mystery. To the Necrons, it is the heartbeat of resurrection. Picture the explorers who find themselves in such a place during the first stirrings. Their vox beads crackle with static, their auspex flickers in confusion. A Scitarius scout reports that the angles of the corridor have shifted, though the stone appears untouched. A junior tech priest insists the readings are faulty, blaming it on interference from local minerals. But as the light spreads further, crawling over glyphs carved into the walls, a sound finally emerges, a grinding resonance, deep and metallic, as though something vast is turning over in its sleep. The explorers know then that they are no longer alone, though they do not yet understand the scale of what has awoken to regard them. For the Necrons, time is meaningless. 1,000,000 years pass as easily as a single breath. Their sleep is not a dreamless void, but a state of calculation, a slow rearrangement of thought in the silence of eternity. When the command protocols flare, when the tomb's systems call them forth, they awaken not with confusion, but with precision. Each warrior stirs, as if no time has passed at all, as if the last battle fought yesterday must be continued today. They rise not from flesh, but from sarcophagi of living metal, their skeletal frames unfolding with mechanical inevitability. Their optics flare emerald, casting long shadows across the chambers. The air hums with energy, with purpose, with judgment. The first to wake are rarely the lords. It is the rank and file, the endless tide of warriors who rise first, their bodies clattering against the metallic floors as they march into position. They emerge from alcoves hidden in walls, from stasis crypts that peel open like petals of iron from sarcophagi so ancient they are etched with scars of wars that ended before humanity's first kings. Their movements are uniform, their silence absolute, their obedience unquestioned. 1,000 skull-faced soldiers step into the light as one, their gaze fixed forward, their weapons humming faintly with power that defies mortal comprehension. To witness such an awakening is to feel the frailty of flesh in its most brutal clarity. Guardsmen who have seen orcs charge and tyrannids swarm whisper that nothing compares to the dread of watching Necrons rise. Orcs bellow, tyrannids shriek, chaos cults chant. They are alive in their fury, messy in their devotion. But the Necrons make no sound. Their resurrection is as cold as mathematics, as silent as inevitability. And in that silence, mortals realize something deeper. This is not an enemy that grows, breeds, or gathers in chaos. This is an enemy that has always been here, waiting, and will always return, no matter how many are struck down. The Mechanicus once described it in hushed Binharic codes. It is not war, it is correction. The Necrons rise not in passion, but in logic, to restore what was once theirs, to reorder the galaxy according to a standard set long before humanity dreamed of empire. Every green light that flickers open in the tombs is not merely a soldier reawakened, but a memory of domination returning to claim what was stolen by time. And as the explorers, the guardsmen, the tech priests stand frozen in terror, they begin to understand a truth too vast to name. They are not discovering the tombs are discovering them. The moment of revelation always comes too late. By the time mortals understand what they are witnessing, the tomb has already claimed them. A guardsman's last bolt, fired in panic, hisses across the chamber and strikes one of the skeletal figures square in the chest. For a heartbeat, there is hope. The thing staggers, metal burning and smoke rising. But then, with a slow inevitability, the wound seals. The green glow of its eyes intensifies, and with a single movement so precise it seems rehearsed, it lifts its weapon. The crack of gauss fire does not thunder, it whispers, a hiss, a line of emerald light, and the guardsman is gone, his flesh unraveling into nothing but drifting motes of ash. Silence falls again, not the silence of rest, but the silence of judgment. The tombs are not battlefields. They are rituals of return. For every Necron that rises, there are hundreds more waiting in alcoves, deeper still, their awakening timed to perfection. Warriors fill the corridors in endless ranks, their green optics piercing the shadows. Canoptech constructs scuttle along the walls and ceilings, their limbs whispering against the stone, repairing fractures no human eye could see. Scarab swarms pour from hidden vaults, each fragment of living metal tasting the air, hungry for entropy. What begins as a trickle becomes a tide no mortal force can contain. The explorers, the soldiers, the priests, they run, they flee into the corridors, their footfalls echoing in desperation. But in these tombs, running is futility. The walls shift subtly, corridors folding in upon themselves, roots warping into impossible geometries. The tomb reshapes around the intruders, herding them as one might herd livestock. Some scream prayers to the emperor, their voices cracking against the oppressive silence. Some fire wildly, bolts and las rounds sparking harmlessly off metal that remembers the stars. And some simply fall to their knees, consumed by the despair of realizing that they are not fighting for survival. They are trespassers being erased. What the Imperium calls ruins, the Necrons call home. To them, these halls are sacred, carved in the image of eternity. Every glyph, every column, every vault is part of a design so vast no human mind could grasp it. And as the first tomb worlds awaken, as the first dynasties stir from the slumber of ages, the galaxy begins to feel the echo of a truth it had buried beneath myth and arrogance. The Necrons are not returning. They never left. They have only been sleeping. And now, the long night of waiting begins to thin. Above ground, the first signs spread. An outpost loses contact with its patrols. Vox signals stutter into static. An entire valley glows faintly at night. Though no fire burns, civilians whisper of figures glimpsed at the edges of their settlements, skeletal shapes standing motionless in the moonlight. Local commanders report anomalies, but receive little response, for the Imperium is vast and crisis is constant. Yet those who know the signs, the Inquisitors, the Archivists of Ordo Xenos, the most secretive of Magi, feel their blood run cold. They have read the fragments, the heretical data slates, the ancient testimonies from worlds long since lost. They know what those signs mean. And as the green light spreads deeper into the tombs, as the last echoes of silence fade into the hum of awakening machinery, one truth resounds across stone and flesh alike. The galaxy belongs not to the living, but to those who have waited longest. The Necrons are stirring, and the echoes beneath the stone are only the beginning.